Okay, so now we may have some sound actually. I don't know why it does that all the time. It's annoying. But today's mission is a little interesting and will require quite a different setup. So I don't know if there's not a lot of light going on here. And Tampos is saying that min sko smager af budding, which roughly translate from Danish into English as my shoe tastes of pudding. Which leaves two very interesting questions, Tom. A, why does your shoe taste like pudding? And B, why do you taste your shoes? And also, Bladio says, let's go. So let's go, Bladio. Anyway, today's mission. Seriously wish I had do something about the light. It just may get a bit annoying. Oh, yeah, that I get it, Tom. That makes sense. It says that he has to taste them in case they taste of pudding. Anyway, as far out as I can get, because this thing here, I mean, this is the width of my hand. This is my second hand and a third hand, so it's about 2.5 hand widths tall. And it's for the board game Assassin's Creed. And this, to be blunt, does not do anything at all in the game, as far as I've been able to figure out. This is simply to place it on some of the tiles where the tower exists. Now, for those of you who played the Assassin's Creed computer games, you know that there will be plenty of towers you can run up to. You can do the synchronized thing. You can do the leap of faith. Leap of faith, leap of fate. Same shit, right? Anyway, you can jump down into one of these carts and all that. But since the game was kickstarted, and since Kickstarter campaigns tend to have this thing, especially with miniature games or board games with miniatures, that stretch goals basically equate more minis. And don't get me wrong, I like having more minis to paint. Because what would I ever do if I ran out of miniatures to paint? Sorry, internal joke, because I will never run out of miniatures to paint. I have such a huge backlog. As can be seen over there. There's just a bunch of them. These annoying critters. But anyway, this tower, I figured, since it doesn't do anything in the game, as it's a very large structure, I figured that might be a good thing to just get started on something and just try out some techniques. But looking at it, I mean, there are a lot of details, but I don't really want it to be a detailed paint job. I want to try something new, also with the minis when we get to that. So what I want to try to do is just give it a lot of shading and maybe a little bit of dry brush highlighting. And Tom says he don't even particularly collect miniatures to paint, and I'll still never run out of miniatures to paint. That is true. Because miniatures, you get them, and you get them in high quality these days with games. I've, I think in past streams, been less than courteous in my description of some of the old Zombicide miniatures, because I quite frankly feel that the injection mold, I think it's called, minis were not good. They had no details. It was washed out. It was just bleh. But these newer ones, if we can even see it, not enough light, I guess. But anyway, wait, I might actually, let me just see if I can play around with the camera. Maybe I can. Hey. There we go. That's actually a little bit too much. Well, at least you can now a little bit better see what is happening here. But basically, this tower is actually in 2 pieces. For, I don't know, ease of storage, and probably the shipping and the box it came in could be done better. If it was in 2 pieces. But anyway, I figure I'm basically just gonna give it a huge splash of wash. Probably gonna run out of wash. I'm just gonna make my own. However, it doesn't feel fully dry to the touch yet. So I think I'm just gonna start with these ones instead. Which is the minis surrounding. Yeah, I think that should be able to do this. And these ones are at the top of the tower. These dudes here, you know, ringing the huge bell that goes on top. I just do a quick, basically just do a quick contrasts paint job on these. Get something up and going. To get a little bit of color at the top of the tower. So yeah, so basically, as I said, in the game, as I tried to say, in the game, the only effect this has is you place it on the tiles where there's a tower marked. And then you just use this tower for good looks. I don't know. Kinda silly. But hey. That's what you get when you have a Kickstarter. And ironically, because of the higher shipping costs, it actually ended up being, they asked people to pay a bit more for shipping. And I think people sort of fairly happily agreed to do that, which I think is a good thing. I mean, the alternative is that the company collapses or whatever, goes bankrupt, or that you don't get your game. And it's not, I mean, these huge changes in shipping cost, I don't think anyone could have predicted that during the budgeting phase of these kind of projects. And I backed it on Kickstarter almost 3 years ago now. So that was before anyone had any idea that we'd be in such a bad lockdown as we've been, that people would order so much stuff and all that. But yeah, so basically, I'm okay with paying a little bit more. Also because in the end, it wasn't really that much more. It was just, don't even think it was 30 bucks. I think maybe 15 or 20 bucks or so. Can't remember. On a game that cost above $100. So yeah, that's maybe 15-20% of the cost. But if that's going to break your budget, you shouldn't be buying board games anyway. At least that's my philosophy. You should do whatever you feel like. As always. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. That's important, people. But yeah. But this basically just is a card of straw. Gonna be pretty simple. It's sort of a yellowish contrast paint on top. Just cover that one in. And once that's dried out a little bit, I'm just gonna do some brown on all the wood parts, and then obviously, well, maybe not too obvious, but plan is to use some metal on the wheels to simulate it has a metal band running around it. So yeah. So, what have you guys been up to lately? I feel like I've been completely fallen off the planet of surface of the planet for half a year or so. Okay, so the chat is quiet, which is okay. Oh yeah, actually, I want to try this. I've been meaning for a while to try out new techniques for painting faster, and one of those techniques would be to excessively dry brush and then use washes instead of paints. Maybe thin down paints would work as well. So why don't I just play around with this and these dudes here. And let's see, what has Tom been up to? Work, eating, sleeping, and recently in-person board games a bit. Oh, congrats! How does it feel to be back playing board games out in the real world? Is it absolutely terrible to have to deal with other players? So much better than online. True. Well, maybe actually it's a good thing, because even having to deal with players in person, my experience is that players in person tend to be a lot kinder than online players will just skip out of games if they can see that they don't have a good chance of winning. I think people's discipline and respect for others is failing. Yeah, that's true, Tom. Games don't set themselves up out in the real world, which means that board games do take quite a lot longer to play. Or maybe not to play, but from you put it out of the shelf until you're done putting it back. It just takes longer. Yeah, no worries, Bill. Always room for lurkers here. So, Bill, did you actually see the tower? Or do I have to pull it out again? Well, Skjalm is busy, because Skjalm is painting, and painting is serious stuff. Now, I'm also started a new job just over a month ago, and still loving it. Still a cool place. So that's good. Still have fun with the small kittens every single day. They just get one step closer to me, and they get more confident about themselves and in their new environment. I mean, even if I have had them for 6 months, they're still very skittish, but that is to be expected in rescue cats. But okay, Bill, I hope you're sitting down, because this tower here, let's just get that way out. This is, Bill, a component for a board game. Yep, and as I told Tom before, it basically doesn't do anything in the game as such. It's really just a replacement to put on those tiles where the tower is drawn. And instead of just moving them, it's usually a 2x2 space tile, as far as I can tell from the components so far. But instead of just placing it on that tile where the tower is painted, you just drop that huge monstrosity in there instead and use that. And that's all there is to it. So if I try out some things with it and it goes absolutely horrible, it's not gonna do much to the gaming experience. I mean, that's just how it is. But yeah. But that was one of the stretch goals in the campaign, was to get that thing as well. Cthulhu Wars, Blood Rage, Death Monster. Yeah, something like that, I guess. But there are so many minis in that game, and they're so good quality. I tried counting them and got to around 112, I think, with everything. Well, not counting the tower actually, because the 110, 12-ish miniatures was just the base game, the core game. I also got the Rome expansion, which adds another 2 types of enemies, which means another 20, 30-ish miniatures or so. That's kind of cool. So yeah. Are the kitties ready to appear on stream? Well, that depends a little bit. They might be, but I don't really have a good camera angle on them, and they're really skittish. So if I start moving the cameras around, they're likely to just run away. So the best thing I can probably do is to tease them up here with snacks, and then once in a while they may just stick around. I think one of them is actually up here, moving around. Yeah. But I mean, this here, it's not as pretty a skin job, whatever, as I normally do, but just for a statue on top of the tower, I think it's okay. It's an acceptable result, and goes pretty quickly. Oh, I'm just reading back, and yeah, Tom, I totally see why you test your shoes once in a while. I mean, Bill doesn't know if his shoes smell taste of pudding, and that's really important because Bill, what if they do? I'm telling you, man, it's important to find out. Should make that a part of my daily routine from now on. Always smell and taste my shoes. But Tom, should I do it in the morning, or sort of throughout the day, or in the evening when I get home from work, or when would be a good time? Tell us, oh master of puddings, or master of pudding tasting shoes. A mix of mud and duck poop on Bill's yard work shoes. Well, wouldn't be too far off some puddings I've tasted. Dried chocolate pudding, yep. That will do it, Bill. So I think the conclusion is that Bill's shoes indeed taste like pudding, based on visual inspection, and no further investigation is needed to close this case. So that's one mystery solved tonight. Yeah, poop pudding. I mean, wasn't the poop emoji originally an attempt at making chocolate ice cream or something like that? That just went, horribly wrong, because one thing is what the designer sees in their head, another thing is what people do to it once it's out in the open. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. Yeah, sorry, I could hear a cat in the background. And since it was spray painting earlier today, I've been airing out everything, and when I closed the room to the door to the bedroom, actually, one of the cats was in there. That's unusual. They don't usually go in there to hide, but again, they're changing up their routines almost on a daily basis. So that's good. But at least now the door is open, so they can get out if they want to. Just ran off and hid again because oh, there we go. There's Artemis. Hey, sorry about shutting you in, man. But as for for playing the game Assassin's Creed, I actually found two people who are crazy enough that they agreed to play it on a regular basis. So we have our first session this Friday, and hopefully it is such a good experience that we all want to continue. One of them is someone from one of my role-playing groups, and the other is one of her co-workers. So at least they know each other, but I only know one of them. But hey, it'll be fun getting to meet new people. There we go. And Bill says that he played board games a couple of weeks ago for the first time in ages, and it was fantastic. Another board game night scheduled for this month. Yeah, I don't know if we were lucky in Denmark that we opened up a lot sooner than the rest of the world, but we've kind of been playing live board game sounds wrong somehow, but I've been playing, in-person board games. Shit. Messed up his leg there. For several months now. But on the other hand, our numbers, various corona-related statistics and so on, are increasing again. So they are talking about maybe shutting us down over the winter, which will be annoying, of course. but if that's what it takes to save people and keep the world running, basically, then that's what we'll do. You played Viticulture. That's so cool. Like, did you play it, or did you only... This was a gift for your friends, so... Cool. I played it... I actually only played it once, and that was with the Tuscany expansion, which I'm told is basically something you really, really want to include. Here I want... And I played it before and loves it. He had never played it. Okay, cool. Yeah, but I should get that game, I think. And I should not only get it, I should bring it at work. Because working at Vivino, which is one of the largest retailer sellers, merchants of wine merchants in the world. I don't know. I don't even know why we don't have it at the office. Kind of feels like a open and shut case. But what color would this be on top of a tower? I'm thinking golden. And we do have a cat in here. Let's see if we can catch her. No? Artemis? No. Just gonna play around. See if snacks will do the trick. And okay. Bill, maybe you know or have an idea. this happened twice in this stream so far, that the microphone disappears from OBS. Yeah, I've actually put it in a position where I can see the meter on the microphone, so I could see that it was gone, and just fixed it. But it annoys me that the microphone just randomly drops out. It seems like something it shouldn't do. No, I mean, the only thing I can think of is if the I have it on running on an external sound card. Yeah, it's Streamlabs OBS, so it's the same. But even in chat, your audio doesn't. Oh yeah, Bill's audio also isn't working. Yeah, Bill, why can't we hear what you're saying? Now, this is the part where I kind of realized that this would be so much more efficient if I did it with an airbrush. And I primed them with an airbrush, why don't I paint them with an airbrush? And actually for metallics, kind of because I like my airbrush, and metallic paints have a tendency to really clog them up if you're not careful. I tried using metallic paints through my airbrush once, really regretted it, had to spend I think the better part of an hour fixing it up afterwards. So yeah. I am very much out of practice with painting, which is odd. So, question: what thinner, medium, as it's called for thinning paints, should you use when doing metallics? Should you use the matte, or should you use the gloss? I think glossy makes sense to give it more shine, because more shine is more better. Also, why am I using a terribly small brush compared to the surface I have to paint? Yeah, this goes a little bit better. Just do 2 quick thin coats like this. Cats are still running around up here. That's good. So, what else is there to talk about? Maybe talk a little bit about role-playing games. Might be fun. Maybe talk a little bit about Assassin's Creed that I'm about to start playing. I think maybe, role-playing wise, I'm currently in 2 groups, not counting Diamond Head, that some of you know. But in those 2 groups, I'm Dungeon Master in one for a Cthulhu-themed fantasy 5e group. That's basically Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules as a core, and then Sandy Peterson Games did a Cthulhu Mythos expansion or source book for Fantasy 5e. I'm guessing because they're not allowed to use Dungeons & Dragons as a name, so they just call it Fantasy 5e, trademarks and stuff like that, IPs. But I think it works really well together. I've mentioned this before, but we're actually getting to the end of the campaign, and it's going really well, in the sense that everything is suitably fucked up. But that is, as I guess, pretty normal when an Elder One, Ancient God, I think actually one of Cthulhu's offspring, if I'm not mistaken, I've never had a good tabloid gene, as I tend to call it. So I'm terrible with family trees and stuff like that. So, but I think Katana Toa, who's the main protagonist in this campaign, is one of Cthulhu's offspring. Hey Britt, welcome aboard. We are painting and losing audio and talking about this and that as usual. So yeah. So what are you up to tonight? I am painting the tower for the Assassin's Creed board game. The tower was one of the stretch goals, and it is a little bit huge, you might say. You are more than welcome to come with all the inappropriate jokes you can come up with. They will all be actually quite appropriate for this particular segment. Oh, and you're still sick. I am so sorry to hear that. Would it help if someone just passed a law saying you're not allowed to be sick? Because I think you would just you would just follow it and get well immediately, wouldn't you? Nah, just kidding. I hope you get well real soon. But while we're waiting for this to dry off, why don't we show it this thingy here? And as I said to you, this doesn't do anything in game. It's just something you put on the tile where the tower is drawn, and then you can place your miniatures on top here instead of in that extra space on that tower. Oh yeah. Fingers crossed, Britt, that you do get well better and sounds like you're improving a little bit. You know, getting better. So that's cool. It's not the size of the tower, it's how you place your miniatures on top. That is true, Bill. That is absolutely true. But really, is that the best you guys have got for this? I mean, Brit is sick, so you've got an excuse right there. That's perfectly fine. And kudos on the to her in chat. I mean, but you're losing your touch. Well, Bill, we're gonna have to get you back into training. Maybe this should do. Oh, there's actually a game out that I saw Jacksepticeye play, I think with his editor, several years ago, where you have to insult the other person in the game, and you have various choices, and from there you have to build everything up. Oh yes, way to go, Brit. That is so good to have you back on track. I mean, just people messing about in chat. Probably best to not mention it here. It's one of those you should have been here moments. But yeah. So no, but the game itself, Assassin's Creed, haven't played it yet. I'll be playing it Friday, but I looked over the rules and looked at how it works, and I think it's actually nicely simple, all things considered. So it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to actually get into, and it doesn't feel like the rules will be bogging down the game. A lot of it deals with not being detected. So it's sort of a stealth, sneaky game. Yeah, I should definitely have used an airbrush for this. This is so pathetic. Anyway, so basically it's fairly simple. If an enemy runs into where you are, it'll see if it notices you. If you move into a space with an enemy, they check if you are there. If you're hidden, you can more easily kill off bad guys. If you're hidden, enemies will not attack you. If you're not hidden, enemies will attack you. And then it's a campaign mission based. You also have in between, just like in the computer games, you have your villa and you have various things that goes on in there. So you'll improve sort of your headquarters or base between games. So that's also going to be cool, I think, to add that level or layer, probably. Actually, it wasn't even my plan to paint tonight. But speaking of viruses in chat, the people I was supposed to go visit, their 4-year-old kid got coronavirus, got tested COVID positive, sadly. And that they know where it came from. That came from the kindergarten. Yeah, just sad. But yeah, it is what it is. Fortunately, they're all still feeling well, so no major signs or problems yet. I really hope it continues to go in that direction. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the daughter doesn't even feel sick at the moment, which I think is really good and really great. So we just fingers crossed, if you can see, that it continues like so. And we have a cat over on the other desk. Perfect. That's not gonna go wrong with a turned on computer and keyboard and mouse and everything. Nope. Oh, I should make a redeem points things for playing with the kitties or giving them treats or something like that. I don't have that currently. That is very unprofessional of me. Anyway, thank you for your best wishes to my friends. I will pass them on. Tom, are you trying to make Brit feel well again by doing the sort of in reverse hugging her? Yeah, Artemis is about to throw something off the thing. So let's see if we can get them to play again. I apologize for the lack of light. I'm guessing it's more about the difference in light between the different areas. So, kitties. Yeah, Artemis is still here. So, and come. Artemis, come. Yeah, she knows what's happening. There we go. Now you're gonna get all the way up here on. You're not gonna get here. You go. Yeah. Let me go down. Athena, come. Athena is a lot shyer and doesn't really want to come up here. But come. As you see, Artemis has learned where the treats are. Young, clever, and not sick. Well, I'm only one of those two. Well, Bill, you're just gonna have to come over here. Then I'm sure we can sort something out. No, but anyway, back to the Cthulhu campaign. Is running where we're getting to the end of it, and I think it's really well made, all things considered. But a few times I ran into the problem of the structure and the writing not really taking into account the fact that maybe the characters don't continue forward in a straight line. It's not really trying to railroad the characters, but it's just at some point they talk to an NPC, walk around the corner, find something large and hideous, but static, so they're not harmed or anything like that. And they decide to go back to the NPC saying, that thing that's right around the corner from where you're living, do you know anything about that? And when looking through the module and all of that, the NPC doesn't. No mentioning at all about anything, and it's basically normally the modules are really good at saying what the different NPCs knows about the different things. So, on birthdays, is that what they were called in Through the Looking Glass? I think that's where the Tea Party is from. It's been too long since I read those. No, but the Cthulhu campaign, in spite of that, it's been really enjoyable playing. And last time I even had the pleasure of messing some more with my players' heads, or the characters' heads. Oh, you're talking IPCon again. I'm losing chat anyway. No, but it really works, and I like the way that it slowly builds up the tension and also slowly gets the characters involved in what happens on this island they've landed on. And it's not in the sort of Deus Ex Machina or railroading kind of way. It's kind of sort of just makes sense for them to do this, and then something happens, and it makes sense for them to react to that, and something else happens, and all of a sudden they're kind of going in this, wait, something really horrible is about to happen here, and we may actually be able to do something about it. And they just, I think it feels quite natural for them to keep doing it, instead of the problem I sometimes face where a group will go, wait, we're just gonna walk away from this. This is way beyond us. So they've done a great job at Peterson Games of writing the module, so it keeps players moving forward. But that being said, I realized that there were a level or two behind, based on the opposition and where they should be and so on, because we sometimes have to break our game sessions and stop them at odd times compared to what's in the modules, and because of that, it's skipped a level or two, or a level increase or two. But that's fine. There are 5 players instead of 4, and they started out with better ability scores than normal, because I have a thing for heroes being powerful. I don't mind that they have above average scores, and I mean the normal point buy system is definitely better than your average person in the D&D worlds, and according to the rules and so on. But I just wanted to tweak them a little bit. They started higher. I used the same system they use in Earthdawn, which just gives you nicely well-working characters. So they have been having it easy. So the lack of level haven't been a huge issue, but I still wanted to get them a little bit up there, so they become too much of a problem, because now they're gonna go into the, yeah, and I'm painting between the legs. About that bit, I think you'd like the humor of one of my players who consistently runs around looking beneath the loincloths of ghouls and ghasts to see what's there. No, but what I did was I gave them the option of gaining another level if they took a minor disorder. Minor disorders being completely stolen from the Warhammer game system, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay system, the old one of those, and it's basically stuff like, you know, biting your nails or talking in your sleep, stuff like that. And I think neurosis is probably the wrong word, but that's what they were called when I was a kid in Denmark, when you're just jittery of some kind. And if they did that, they would gain another level. If they also took a major disorder, and now we're talking the really, really fun things, they would gain an extra level. So for a minor disorder, they would gain 1 level, and for a minor and a major disorder, they would gain 2 levels. But I insisted that everyone in the party should agree on it. And hardly surprising, they chose to take the levels. So now we have a bunch of really interesting people. One of them is the cleric even is so paranoid that he believes Gatanatoa is everywhere watching and listening. So he will randomly attack empty spots. And the others have similar things. They'll have, you know, problems speaking. One of them has decided that the cats, they met some cats out in well, not the Dreamlands, but something pretty close to it. And she just decided after that the cats rule everything, so she must obey the cats. Which is true. I mean, there's no problem there. And yeah. So that was fun to see. And I mean, that's kind of the purpose of any Cthulhu campaign. If it's fantasy, if it's actually the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, your characters will go nuts. I mean, the old writings of both Lovecraft and the others, it really deals with things happening inside people's heads. So I think it's appropriate, and it's really nice to have a player group who are more interested in, you know, the campaign and the setting and, you know, the feel of everything than in maximizing out, you know, optimizing the characters. No, you're not gonna make me call it min-maxing, because I've been through too much game theory to use that term for optimizing your character. It's one of my pet peeves. Wait, people are being oddly polite in my chat. What went wrong? People are doffing their hats to each other and curtsying. I mean, next we'll have people bowing. People are saying "Thank you, kind sir." Did we go somewhere else? Did someone accidentally? Did I raid another channel? This is not my usual audience. So, but anyway, that was an update on the Cthulhu status thingy. The last session was really fun. They woke up, you know, downstairs in the evil people's citadel and had to make their way out. Were suitably scared when in D&D terms, huge shark creature emerged from a pool, almost ate them. Fortunately, they were all invisible, which I think was really, really cool, and got a lot of tension going with them standing absolutely still within a few meters, a few feet even. Oh, right, Tom, that's true. Tom is saying that, I'm guessing that was in response to people being polite, that Britain is reversing to the 19th century, so they're just, you know, practicing. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense indeed, sir. Ah, Modifian, I will braid the beard, but I'm in the middle of doing contrast paints and I have to finish this section. And I have just been saying what a good group you people are. no, the Cthulhu group. Modifian is one of my players. Although I don't know for long, considering how many times I've completely by accident killed off her cute little familiar owl. You see the piece? Oh, Britt, you mean the tower? No, you can't see that piece. Right. Sorry, my bad. Let's see if this will help. The one in my hand, yeah. Thank you for pointing it out. I appreciate it. It don't always look that much on screen when I'm busy with all of this, obviously. And what if I may actually take a rain check on the braiding thing, because I don't have any hairbands nearby, so I will owe you one until next time, and I will be better prepared if that is okay with you. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to take a break and see if I can find a hairband, elastic, rubber band, whatever. You know what I mean. And Tom, yeah, they are indeed contrast paints. I find for miniatures like this, where I have to paint a lot in the same color, and they have a lot of texture to them, like the wood, that you can actually quite clearly see here. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the contrast paints. I'm losing track of chat over there. Jokes going way above my head here. That's fine. I'm not clever like you guys are. But basically, no, the contrast paints, yeah, they're good for this. However, I've tried painting a few miniatures that had, or where I needed more colors right next to each other, and I found that to be truly annoying with contrast paint, because I didn't feel like it saved me any time doing it, because you have to be really careful when applying the contrast paints, because it needs to flow just right, and if there's too much, it's gonna look terrible. If there's too little, you're not gonna get the shadow effects. So it actually requires not so much a steady hand. It also does that, because if you mess up the paint, you're screwed basically. I should probably wait with the wheels until the rest have dried off. But if you mess up and draw outside of the lines or areas and so on, it's really terrible to try and clean it off. And if you don't just apply just the right amount, it's gonna look absolutely horrible. And if there's not a lot of texture in the miniatures like there are with the cape here or whatever, the skin, not the skin, the hide, the clothing they have here. This is simple. This basically paints itself with contrast paint really, really quickly and really efficiently. Oh. Let's see if I can get them both. There we go. Okay, I'm juggling this really hard. There you go. That is both Artemis on top and Athena. And they deserve treats in this. Hey. Oh. Yeah, well, it's sadly also the camera I use for the stuff I'm painting, so I'm probably gonna set it all wrong again. But there we go. So yeah, those were both kitties at the same time. I was not just fooling around when I said I'd gotten kitties. They're actually there. So yeah, what do we do then? Okay, the hair on these guys, I guess, should be gray, which we can do by doing doing this. Yeah, we're going heavy on the contrasts for this, just to get things done in one go instead of in two goes. So yeah, Tom, that would be a good thing to mention, because what you probably can't see on the camera here, he does have a mustache and a beard going down his sides, and painting that in with contrast paints, to me, doesn't really work well, because it's too small a surface for the paints to really work, and it's really fiddly getting it in there, and if you just mess it up just a little bit, you more or less have to cover all of it and redo everything, which I think is, yeah. And that's also some of the criticism they got when they labeled it as a beginner's paint. That it's not really easy to paint with contrast paints. Some things will go incredibly quick and save you a lot of time in the the shading, highlighting process. But if you don't know what you're doing, it's just gonna mess up the miniatures, which is obviously not good. Well, he's gonna get really, really black hair. Yeah, I'm gonna do his beard and mustache with contrast paint anyway, because I don't really care. Again, these are just gonna be tabletop ready miniatures. It does seem like I'm gonna have to give them some big highlights anyway, which isn't really surprising, because I mean, I did go for black contrast paint, so obviously it gets too dark, but hey, who cares? So yeah, I feel like I've started talking about 4 or 5 different things, and I can't remember if I ever actually finished any of it. I take that as you guys distracting me with so much more interesting things to say and talk about, and of course the cats. So yeah. So that's the hair done, and I still have no idea what I'm really gonna do with the tower itself. I mean, I'm basically just putting it off. If I even should do anything about it. It is this monstrosity Modifian, and I'm not really sure because it's so large that it actually has shadows built in. So I'm not sure if it would even do anything to shade it down. Maybe a thin down shade would work. I mean, the base down here could definitely use some more shading. And the rest, I mean, stuff like this mural or whatever up here, you could have so much fun painting it, but I really just want to keep it simple and neat. I had considered just doing it really dark, like just doing it black, and then what's it called, just airbrushing, no, not airbrushing, dry brushing everything up. But you know, it's difficult to figure out what the best thing to do is, and it's gonna take quite a while to do no matter what I decide, so that's also gonna be a hassle. Maybe you should just shade the bottom shade the bottom, see how that goes, and then take it from there. You also have this bell that's giving me a lot of grief at the moment. I just give it another quick go. I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, this golden paint is really not taking well to the miniature, as if it keeps slipping off. I'm guessing it might be because it's just larger surfaces. I mean, I did use a thin down paint before, but that should still have, you know, given at least an even coverage. Oh, and Britt is asking if there will be a cat cafe at Ericon. What is Ericon? Other than, I'm guessing, a board game convention, but where and who and so on. I just remembered how much I hate painting large miniatures. It takes forever and somehow always ends up being worse than the small miniatures. Because in large miniatures you can really see all the small mistakes you make. Now ain't that wonderful? Oh, say hi, Modifian, to your family. She's off to read a bedtime story. And now that she's gone, I can reveal my horrible plan to buy the... I can't remember what the book is called, but there is one with Cthulhu-ized versions of a lot of children's stories. Consider getting that for Modifian's kid. She said no! Which naturally makes me go, okay, sounds like the perfect gift. Okay, so that got a little closer to at least being decently covered. So yeah, nope. Okay, there's something really wrong. Either, yeah, probably with me or the brush or whatever, or maybe I've not done well with the golden paint here because it's really seriously messing up everything. So I think this is going to be a salvage job from here on out. I'm just trying to get it kind of decent looking. I mean, it's like this, you know, I painted, and even though it's the second or third layer and they dried off in between, it still just doesn't stick properly. So, anyway. So, while this is drying off, maybe we can actually do a little bit more on this one. Just get the wheels covered, and once they're covered, I think this one is good to go. This is the cart that is parked underneath the towers, and the cart you take your leap of faith into and just, I don't know, jumps off a 20-30 meter tall tower to end up in a cart of straw without damaging yourself. That is quite a feat in itself. But that's one of the things, sort of the I don't know, trademark things. One of the stables or whatever of Assassin's Creed are these huge leaps of faith. And I remember the first time I did it in the computer games. The way they do it, they mess around with the camera, the zoom, the angle, so on. It really feels like you're jumping, 100 meters straight down. So I could literally feel it in my toes. It was wonderful. So it's probably not gonna get the same effect out of a board game, but I'll be remembering the computer game, and maybe that will help. So, yeah. I think forget about the bottom end of the wheel. No one's gonna see that, and it's gonna be standing down anyway. So that was one wheel done. Move on to the next wheel. It's actually kind of interesting airbrushing all of these things earlier, especially the tower, because that just soaked up so much paint. It's quite different doing terrain from doing the miniatures. But yeah. I mean, I know the brown here that I use on the cart and the wheels are not that far off from the hay or straw that is in the cart itself. However, I do think that, except that the hay may be a little bit too yellow, then that's just, I mean, those are the colors they have. Could have gone for a darker wooden color, but at the same time, I've generally come to the conclusion that, especially when doing tabletop ready miniatures, it's usually better to use brighter colors or brighter color schemes than darker color schemes, because that will make them be more visible on the table. They're standing like a meter away from your eyes, and you try to look at a really wonderfully painted miniature with a lot of detail, but a dark paint job. It's actually really difficult to see the details. It's just gonna fade or blend into this dark blob somehow. I've seen that on also if you see pictures of miniatures, and they're really good looking when they're close up photos of them. Try zooming out and just looking at the miniatures when they're standing on a table. And I saw some photos recently in a group I'm in on Facebook. Fantastic paint job, really wonderful. But when the three miniatures he painted were standing next to each other on a board, some distance from the observer, it just turned into a sort of brownish, grayish mass of unrecognizable or undiscernible things, which belt was a little bit sad, but it is what it is. There we go. Guess it was off cam again. One card coming right up. Maybe not, since it doesn't have a horse in front of it. So, what next? I think we are gonna give the bell a little bit more in terms of gold. Actually guessing it's because it's golden paint metallics. They're thinning them down and applying them the metal flakes that are in it, or whatever it's made. The stuff that makes it shiny and looks like metal. I think that they're larger than the normal pigments they use for miniature paints. Seems like it, so they get pushed around more instead of just being applied evenly. So yeah, that's what we're doing. But once this is actually fully painted golden, what I found gives a really good finish is to give it a reddish tinted wash. Not a full-blown red, that can be a little bit too much, but if you use like one of the flesh washes, maybe with some red added to it, it can actually come out really well, because you're kind of into the what's called the golden tone. You keep that. You don't go into a black, for instance. It's going to be too high contrast with the gold, to my liking at least. And yeah, so that works really well. And then you get a lot of the shadows, the recessed areas back. I'm currently messing up really badly, and I mean all of this, it really is that shiny. It's not just wet paint. It really is a shiny coat it's gotten here. So shading it down emphasizes the shadows and recessed areas quite nicely, hopefully. But it needs to dry out completely before I can do that. So that's gonna have to wait until tomorrow. I think for now, I'm actually thinking that the tower itself, I'm just for now at least gonna leave it like it is and see how it looks when I get it on the table in daylight. And then these dudes here, I'm gonna do the huge hammers that they use. They're the bell strikers or whatever it's called. And what are we gonna do with that? We are going to, I mean, I could. The shaft on this miniature, on this hammer, should probably be brown. But I think adding more brown to a guy that is on the skin tone is shaded with a light brown, and he's wearing a hide armor or hide cloak or whatever of more brown. Golden hammer seems excessive somehow. Also, some of the stuff is not fully dried up. Well, don't touch your miniatures when you have golden paint on your fingers. That is today's lesson. I just messed up his leg down here. That's how it goes. So yeah. Wait, now I'm just curious. Did Modifian go and read bedtime stories to all of you so you fell asleep? Because you're being awfully quiet out there. Here we're just gonna go for I'm just gonna go for the black hammers and then maybe do the head gray. Seems like the way to go. Yeah, that's probably gonna work out quite nicely. Yeah, looks like Modifian came back. Thank you for rescuing me, Modifian, from the true horror of a silent chat. You know, a large part of me thinks I should have just stuck to not giving them any color at all. So what is Modifian saying? He's talking about bedtime stories. Oh, well, Tom is tucked up in bed and waiting for his bedtime story. That sounds very lovely, Tom. Hope it doesn't take long. And Modifian is talking about Mimbo Jimbo. Oh, and Tom, is it Monique you're watching? And we have all the good stories about Mimbo Jimbo. I do not know who Mimbo Jimbo is. Oh, Mimbo Jimbo is apparently a cute little elephant with a bunch of animal friends. Oh, how lovely. Dokes. Need a little bit more on this dude here. And then we need to do the heads of those things. Okay, that is a very weird story. Yeah, pretty common that you may find art in surprising places. Maybe even here, who knows? Maybe one day I will finally do art for you guys. Just, you know, don't hold your breath. But Tom, why are you working so late? That does not sound like a healthy habit. And you know what they say? Unhealthy habits make for unhealthy hobbits. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite pleased. As I said, contrast paint for a miniature like this really makes it pop when it's standing. I mean, even on camera. So yeah. No, working late in the evening is not a kink in any way. That's just that's abuse of your body. No, I shouldn't. I'm not one to talk. I sometimes do that myself. And yeah, I know the whole things have to be done thing for work and stuff. So yeah, and sometimes also just working at night when everything is starting to settle down actually gives you some peace and quiet to get things done. Um, I mean, ideally, it shouldn't be necessary to do that, but sometimes it just is. Well, maybe Tom's work is to dual stream in bed. I could get behind that. That would be very good work to have. Those hammers almost good to go, and still don't know if I should actually put any kind of paint on the tower itself. I mean, it's tempting, but it can also just make it go really bad, and then it probably just looks better the way it is right now. Oh, so you think that maybe that is what he's doing with the multi-streaming? Doing salaries. Well, it's not the end of the month. It's the middle of the week, so salaries. I don't know. So yeah. So anyway, I think this is more or less what we got to do today. Can maybe give this a quick. I mean, it is really shiny, golden thingy. So you know what? I'm just gonna try it out at the bottom here, and we're gonna do. I'm gonna do a light tone. I think that is more red than the other one I have. Is Tom fluent? Oh, he is. Well, he's actually working on the translation of the IKEA catalog into Klingon. This is bullshit. This isn't properly. This is the red. Well, it's dark brown. That'll do. Or maybe he's plotting. Oh, he's plotting total world domination. You know, now it's part of the grand plan for Britain, starting with the Brexit. And they want to return to the good old days when Britain was a huge empire. But this time they're actually, instead of looking abroad to the Caribbeans and India and those kind of places, they're actually going to take over all of Europe. So, see, this is why I really like working with shades, inks, washes, whatever you want to call it. The crappy golden paint job at the bottom here, it's not completely covered up. You can still, if you actually put just a little bit of effort in it, and you can still see down here that it's not covering fully perfectly and all that with the golden paint underneath. However, you don't see it because now you also have the shading going on. It's all about tricking people into believing that it looks far better than it really does. And Tom is undercover. I just got really tired. In a good way. That was a good one, Tom. Now let's see what we can do up here on the actual bell. Oh, gonna need so much shade to actually get this to flow properly. This is a weird surface. I mean, nothing is working like it should on it. So I'm just gonna blame the model when this doesn't go well. Let's call it a weathering effect. It's not fully symmetric or following any kind of proper technique or anything like that, but that's because it's been out in the open for so many years that it's just worn down. Exactly, the patina. Thanks, Britt. Yeah, it's really, really great effect, and that's why I really like having shades and shades or inks, whatever they're called from the different brands, washes, are just thin down paints essentially, but it flows so nicely and it just goes into all the cracks. And yeah, bring your jokes, but just all the recesses, just sinks into it and just helps make the miniatures pop. Often they will also add a little bit of shine to the miniature, which can be an advantage again for tabletop ready standards, when you just want it to be a little bit more visible at a distance. And you can see it as well here. It's really uneven, especially down here. Just maybe just touch it up just a little bit. We may actually be able to get a decent result. Far better than what I had expected when I started, slapping on the gold on this one here. So yeah. And now, the main problem we have up here, a huge problem we have up here, is where the fuck do I hold this to paint the very tip of the cross. I should probably just accept that it will not be painted right now and just leave it like that for a while, I guess. Yeah, that'll do. So, all things considered, that actually turned into something that resembles a bell. A bit weathered, but that's fine. The game is set in early 1500s in Italy, Venice to be specific. So I guess it kind of makes sense to have slightly weathered bells on top of the towers. Now, don't get started on that, Modifian, because I actually found, to skip a little bit ahead and answer Brit's question about whether gold has patina. Well, gold itself doesn't have it like copper. It turns green. I don't know the English term for it, but there's still gonna be birds shitting all over this, and normal wear and tear and dust and all those kind of things. So it's not the gold itself that does anything, but it's still gonna get a patina from just dust and dirt. But if you're watching paint dry, I'm actually gonna do that at some point. And we're gonna do some bases, I think, because watching the bases dry when you use the technical paints from Citadel Games Workshop, you get some really cool effects. I don't have any minis here, but they're the ones that when they dry up, they contract and start crackle. So when you look at it, it actually slowly just crackles up as you watch it dry. So watching paint dry can actually be thrilling and fun and entertaining. So be warned, I'm gonna do an entire stream just with that at some point. Yeah, the problem with washes, as opposed to the normal paint, is that it takes forever to dry. And I don't have anything I can balance it on or with. I'm just looking slightly frantically around my desk here. Yeah, but I mean, come on. But if you're gonna make a huge bell and you're only using brass or bronze, I mean, come on, give me some style, okay? Go gold or go home. So yeah, I think that was it for the bell. So again, I need to rinse off my hands a little bit before I wrap the tower. I'm probably not gonna be putting these things up there until they're completely dry. It would be a shame. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like the way it's just standing there. I think it's gonna work fine. If I can take off the top here. So the idea is, no, I'm not gonna touch those. But basically the idea is that these two guys are gonna be standing here with their hammers, and then the bell goes in the middle. So that's basically it. Anyway, since we're down to things drying and Modifian is being a complete bore and doesn't want to watch paint dry, I think that be it for tonight. Thank you for joining. As you know, I haven't been streaming in quite a while. So we have the card here as well. That turned out best of all the things here. I mean, these dudes, they're okay, but not great. But I haven't really painted at all in the 6 months or so since I've last streamed regularly. I hope to get some more streaming done soon. I have a bunch. Yeah, so does that make the top of the tower the bell end? There's a joke here I don't get, Tom. I'm sorry. No, but it's been great seeing you all, and if you'll be kind enough to stick around, we will find someone to raid and see how that goes. So do not go anywhere. But if you're in the cavemen, okay, I did not know that a bell end is a penis, but that's it. But I mean, the caveman, that's a bit like, if you look at the Danish crest, that'll also have, caveman style people, from ancient times. It's a sort of a simple heraldry kind of thing. So, but anyway, stick around and I will find someone for us to raid.